Hello, Warbirders. Uh-oh. No opening music. So you know that something is different today. It's been a little while, so I thought I would reintroduce Tanner to you. She is a third-generation operational Air Force pilot and one of a very select group of women who fly the F-35 Lightning II. And more importantly, she's a long-time listener to World of Warbirds. In the early days, she would hound me about doing something more modern. And so I deflected by challenging her to write an episode herself. Well, she accepted the challenge. And you could find her episodes in my list under Tanner's Just Jetz. For security reasons, she can't narrate her stuff at this point, so I will read it to you. So Tanner, as pilots say to each other in the cockpit, you have control. It's the 1991 Gulf War, and you are an Iraqi Navy missile specialist. You do the job to help keep food on the table for you, and hopefully future generations to come, by getting your family name in good graces with the government by serving. Being a missile specialist, at this site you operate specifically the HY-2 Silkworm missile, a land-based missile made for taking out ships. And on this day, you sit on the coast. Your mission... Hello and welcome to Tanner's Just Jetz. Today we're actually covering a jet. I wanted to work my way up to this one, to bring out the history of its predecessors, but also slowly work our way through the innovations of tech in the anti-submarine warfare realm. Like I said in the last episode, and we'll say again in this one, the S-2 Tracker is a great plane, and the Navy loved it. In fact, I recommend you go back and give that episode a listen first, if you haven't, as I'll be building off many concepts mentioned in that episode. Sorry guys, this one took so long. Been having a lot going on in my life lately, and this episode is a long one, which gave me some writer's block. But it's definitely a tale that needs to be told to the best of one's abilities. The first S-2A Tracker flight was in 1952. 20 years after some great service and great use due to the evolutions of submarine technology, the plane was rapidly aging and needed a new, modern replacement. Meanwhile, the Soviets were building up their force of subs. In 1960, an intelligence report stated that the Soviets had up to 2,000 modern diesel-electric submarines. At the end of World War II, they had captured a German Type 21 U-boat, the newest model, but put into service too late in the war, only serving one patrol. But it had a new pressure hull construction, powerful sonar, a partially automatic torpedo loader, and able to travel at 35 knots, and able to travel for 1,700 nautical miles surface range or 240 submerged. The main thing the Soviet Union was able to learn from this captured piece, though, was the new methods of construction, leading to much faster production by pre-assembling parts of the sub in factories. The limit of the early German diesel-electric submarines was fuel. In 1958, this would change as the Soviets sent to sea their first nuclear submarine, Project 672 Kit, or known by its NATO name, November. This was the first of a class of nuclear submarines known by the Soviets as the Lit, or Whale in English, and they served until 1990. 14 subs were made in this class, and many have accomplishments. But you can read up on those on your own, because this is Tanner's Just Jetz, not Tanner's Just Subs. As the Vietnam War came closer to its last years, most propeller-driven planes on the aircraft carrier had been phased out, except for the S-2 Tracker, its sister, the C-1 Trader, and the E-2 Hawkeye. The carriers were getting sick of having to haul around a bunch of avgas to keep the birds flying, and as the World War II era carriers retired, this situation did not improve. As a result, the surface anti-submarine warfare network had to be reframed, and one first change they looked at was replacing the S-2 tracker. The proposal issued in 1968 aimed specifically at a carrier-borne replacement of the S-2 tracker called the VSX, aka Heavier Than Air Anti-Submarine Experimental. To simplify it, take the S-2, make it a jet, and double everything. Some requirements were that it had to double the speed of the S-2, 560 miles per hour, double the max ceiling, 44,000 feet, and twice the range, 2,700 nautical miles. Of course, you say aircraft carrier and Grumman's gonna come calling, the creator of our two previous carrier-borne anti-submarine warfare birds. They teamed up with Convair to put in a proposal, but Lockheed, the creators of another great anti-submarine warfare platform, the P-3 Orion, put in a proposal also. Lockheed had yet to design a carrier plane from the ground up, and needed help. So they teamed up with Ling Temco Vought Ltd, the creators of the A-7 Corsair II and F-8 Crusader, not to mention the World War II and Korean War F-4AD Corsair I. For new anti-submarine gear, they got help from Sperry Univac Federal Systems, the merger's predecessor, Sperry, being the creators of the Artificial Horizon and other instruments. They designed the onboard computers, sensors, and sonobuoy systems. Surprisingly, the Lockheed proposal was said to be the most promising, and ended up winning the VSX program. Let's take a closer look at what the program became, the S-3A Viking. Sadly for some, like I mentioned before, this plane moved away from the big spinning blades of death to big sucking fans of death, to General Electric TF-34 GE2 turbofan engines. A turbofan engine works just like our classic turbojets we've been talking about, except for an added extra stage, where instead of all the air being sent to the combustion chamber to mix with fuel, some of it is pushed through an extra fan outside of the engine, contributing to even more thrust as the compacted air is pushed out at rapid speeds. These engines were the same engines used on the A-10 Warthog, just tuned to run a little hotter for working on boats. Being high bypass, the engines were best for low altitude, and that's where the S-3 Viking would work best, skimming the wavetops. In fact, any altitude above 24,000 feet would give the engines horrible fuel economy. And they were originally designed to outperform in comparison to its fast jet counterparts. Additionally, the engines never earned the A-10 a nickname like this plane. More on that soon. A 2 in the front, 2 in the back, side-by-side cockpit layout was used like seen on the EA-6B Prowler. While our anti-submarine warfare series, Grumman Tracker and the Grumman Guardian, had a steering wheel-like control column like on the P-38 Lightning, the S-3 would move to the more modern stick to help control pilot steering. One would be provided for both front seaters. The wingspan of the S-3 was an amazing 69 feet, and its tail was 23 feet, sitting large like Poseidon on his seat, watching over the ocean. Much like the S-3 would do. Another upgrade, compared to the earlier Grumman-made planes, was that all 4 crew sat on Douglas Escape Pack 00 ejection seats. If you remember from our Cougar episode, 00 ejection seats would allow a pilot to escape from a jet sitting on the ground, 0 altitude, and at 0 airspeed, giving it the name of 00 ejection seat. The 2 back seaters would be ejected, followed by the front seater half a second later. Each seat was aimed slightly outward in its respective seating direction, left or right. The crew would go through the canopy, like the A6 intruder, leaving no delay for canopy ejection. My dad, being an A6 pilot, would mention some stories of crews ejecting, and my only fear at the time thinking of the story was getting shards of glass in me. It wasn't until I started flying I realized there's probably more pressing concerns at the moment you're ejecting than getting some cuts from shards of glass. Thank you for listening to this preview. If you like what you heard, come and join us over on Patreon. The link is right there in the show notes. You'll help to support this podcast, and you'll hear all the rest of this episode. Until next time, thank you from Brian and Tanner.